distinct privilege to introduce to you Del Rio Section's Chief Patrol Agent, Raul Ortiz.
First off, good morning, everyone, and I really want to say thanks to Ms. Vassos for singing the national anthem, Sean, who's our pastor that really has done a tremendous job of leading the transition shelter and a lot of the work that goes on for the migrants that we are releasing into the community that ultimately make it somewhere north of us. And so on behalf of the men and women of the Border Patrol, DHS, CBP, thank you very much for a great rendition of the national anthem. I want to thank the Honor Guard. Those guys always look so sharp. I always wanted to be an Honor Guard member, but I always had 2 left feet, so that wasn't going to happen. But they did a tremendous job. Also want to thank the men and women that are manning our statics outside. Those folks work the front lines each and every day. I asked them to come out here so you can see some of the tools and resources that we are dedicating towards this border security mission. I think it's awfully important that you see firsthand the faces behind that are working 24/7 to keep this community safe, Eagle Pass, and the rest of the sector. At this point, I'd also like to point out that I have some family members here. That little lady, my mother. Love you. I love you. You know, I arrived here about 3 months ago, and I had a tremendous welcoming by this community. Everywhere I go, whether it's Home Depot, Walmart, Blue Oasis, I go there too. Somebody stops me and thanks me for what we are doing. And specifically, I don't know that they're thanking me. I think they're thanking the men and women of the Border Patrol and the sector and our partners. And so what I'd like to do is recognize my command staff. They're sitting here on the front row. If you could, please stand up. I've got my 4 division chiefs. These are my right-hand folks. They really have done a tremendous job even before I arrived, and they continue to work tirelessly to make sure that the men and women out there on the front lines have the resources they need. Up here on the left-hand side, I have my patrol agents in charge. In this sector, we have 9 stations running from Comstock. I'll start from the west. We have where's Johnny Bernal? Johnny Bernal, he runs our Comstock station. So afterwards, if you're a community member in Comstock, Uvalde, and whatnot, and you want to put a name with a face, these are the folks that are running the individual stations. These are my field commanders. I have Brian Kimmett, who's running my Eagle Pass North station, just newly appointed about a month and a half ago. Congratulations. I have Manny Rodriguez, who's our patrol agent in charge of Rock Springs, also oversees San Angelo and Abilene, so he's got a big stretch that he has to cover. I have Vanessa McKeon, who oversees Carrizo Springs Station, and she does a tremendous job out there. Russell Church, who's overseeing my Eagle Pass station right now on the south side, which is really one of our busiest stations in the country. Okay, we have Robert Fuentes, who is our patrol agent in charge of Brackaville. He tells me he's going to retire, but I'm not going to let him. John Perry, who oversees our special operations, or our intelligence unit. He does a tremendous job for us. We got Wes Ross, who's handling our Uvalde station right now. And then we got Oscar Salinas, who's running our Del Rio station. Thank you guys for what y'all are doing. You know, I wanted to thank my kids and my family because I've moved them all over the country. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here. But if they're watching Facebook, it's on there. Thank y'all. We appreciate you. I want to also take an opportunity to thank my partners. And when I talk about my partners, what I'm talking about are my federal partners, my state and local partners, and all the agency heads that are out there performing duties and responsibilities that have a direct nexus to the border security mission on this humanitarian crisis. So if I could at this point, have all the agency heads please stand up. I know the sheriffs, Joe Rodriguez, the marshals here, we've got TSA here in the room, we've got other agencies that are represented. I know there's a few more of y'all. Please, if you could give these folks a round of applause. And thank y'all for attending. I know all of y'all have busy day jobs, and so cutting a couple hours out of your day to come and support us during this State of the Border event is awfully important, and it means an awful lot to us in the Border Patrol. I also want to thank my state, local, and county government officials. I know the judges here, and we've got some of the city council folks. If y'all could stand up, please. Judge, thank you. You know, I arrived here about 3 months ago, and I have to say that I was awfully grateful to the Chief of the Border Patrol and the Commissioner and the Secretary for allowing me to come home. I grew up in Del Rio, so actually being able to come back and command a sector that you were raised in means an awful lot to many of us. Some of us are able to go back to as field commanders, as PICs, to where we grew up, but to actually become a chief in your home sector is something that truly doesn't happen all that often. So I couldn't be more appreciative of the confidence that the Chief of the Border Patrol bestowed on me when she allowed me to come back here. So one of the things I want to talk about today are exactly what's happening out there. You know, this says 2019 State of the Border. Well, I don't know that we've ever had a State of the Border, at least while I was here and probably since. And so what I want to offer up, that as long as I'm the Chief of the Border Patrol here in Del Rio sector, I'm going to continue to try and provide opportunities to share information with the community at large. And so I know there's an awful lot of rhetoric that happens out there in social media, in the news media and whatnot, but what I want to do is provide you an opportunity to hear firsthand what's happening right now, where we're going to take this sector over my course of my tenure here, and then give you an opportunity to ask some questions. And so we've got a podium set up here, and we'll allow you to ask some questions. And then after that, I'm going to do a press conference with some of the media. But really, this is about me sharing information with the community. What I asked my team to do is put together a little video. And in the video, it really shows firsthand the great work that's going on out there. You know, this sector is made up of 1,531 employees. That's an awful lot of employees spread out amongst the communities that we represent. And it's both uniformed officers and professional staff. I have 109 professional staff members that are working out there behind the scenes that don't necessarily get the credit that a Border Patrol agent may get on a daily basis. And then immediately after the video, I want to tell a little story about one of the events that happened in the video. You ready? our recruitment video. Hopefully we get somebody to join us. So, in the video, there was a scene where two Border Patrol agents rescued a 16-year-old Honduran young man. He was face down in the water. He was drowning. He drowned. And these agents had the wherewithal to recognize it wasn't just him, but there were two other people that were in the water in distress. But he was the one that probably needed immediate attention. And so they were able to pull him, literally pull him out of the water onto the vessel and begin CPR. And they were able to bring that young man back to life. In fact, I think by the time they made it to the shoreline, he was already breathing on his own. And so, had it not been for their quick response and their tremendous training, because they're navigating, at the time, the river was up quite a bit. The flow was extremely high. And so, they knew that getting that boat in the right place, grabbing that kid out of the water, and then performing medical care to him was going to mean the difference between life and death. Please come up here. I've got Agent Trevino and Agent Gomez, who are the two agents in the video. Now, that kind of work happens every single day by our men and women. And I was telling them and their families who are here, right here in the second row, that event happens in 20 sectors, probably several times a day. Unfortunately, more often than not, it's not captured on video, or, it's marginalized because there are so many other things going on in the world that we aren't able to give the recognition to our men and women that they deserve. Fortunately, we had Officer Romero. Could you please come up here also? She was working on the port of entry in Eagle Pass at the time and saw what was happening, took out a camera and videotaped the event unfold from the initial encounter to the very end. Had it not been for her quick reaction, this would have been a story that we would have read about, but we would have never been able to see and certainly recognize the great work that these men and women, and the men and women that are wearing uniforms, do on a daily basis. So on behalf of myself and the rest of the command staff, thank you for what you do. I've got a small token of my appreciation for y'all. There you go. Unless you want to stay up here and finish up the operation. I told them I was going to do that because when this event happened, it didn't get the coverage it wanted. We had Laura Ingram here a few months back when I arrived, and I actually called her up and said, hey, y'all need to tell this story just a little bit more because it's not getting the airplay it deserves. Unfortunately, it didn't, but know that we are appreciative of your actions and what you guys did, and that's not going to be the last of the recognition that you receive. So, before I get into the operational briefing, what I wanted to also do is thank my team, my communication shop run by Brady White, who's the Master of Ceremonies. He and his team did all of this, put this thing together. If I waited to the end, Brady, I would have forgotten. So thank you and your team for coordinating this. It's a great showing by the community, and we appreciate the support from all of y'all. So thank y'all. What I also want to do is thank, in the video you saw a bunch of different uniforms. You saw military uniforms, you saw some folks in tan uniforms, our Air Marine Operations folks, and we have some of them here. They're out there up in the air, they're helping us man our boats, they're supporting us on a daily basis, and they do a tremendous job. Right now, we have Office of Field Operations personnel, customs folks from across the country that have been sent down here to Del Rio sector to help us. We have DHS surge personnel. These are folks that would normally sit in a cubicle or a desk somewhere that have come down here to help us. We have federal air marshals that have come down, and those are EMT certified individuals that allow us to put agents out on the front lines, which is a tremendous benefit for us as an organization. And then we have our military partners, and you see many of them here. We've got a tremendous support from the Department of Defense, and I just read this morning that we have more personnel coming down to the border to help us. Without their efforts, that would be less agents we'd have on those front lines protecting our communities and actually protecting the border. And so thank y'all for what y'all do. And so what I'd like to do is, one, I think in order to understand where we're going, I think you have to understand a little bit about me. Been in the Border Patrol 28 years. I'm a military guy. I grew up in a military family. My grandfather retired from the service. My mother and my dad were both in the Army. My dad told me, I think at the age of 8 or 9, he said, you guys are going to have to join the Army, you and your brother. So we're making hospital corners in our bunk beds at an early age. We knew that we were destined to wear a uniform and serve. And both of us did. We served in the Army, and then we both went on into law enforcement. My brother retired from DPS about a year ago, and the other day he told me, boy, it sure is nice getting paid for doing nothing. So at some point I want to get to that, but in the interim, I want you to know that as a community member, as a third generation Del Rio, you know, I'm invested in this community as much as I possibly can be. I'm here for the long haul. This is going to be my last stint, and so I want to make sure that I do everything I can to make this community safe. And I talk about community, I'm not just talking about Del Rio, talking about Eagle Pass, talking about Cadiz Springs, Uvalde, and so on. And we're going to go through a slide deck here, and I'm going to give you some information about what's happening right now, what our challenges are, and what I expect to do about some of these challenges. So, in order to understand what's happening here in Del Rio sector, I think you have to understand what's happening at the national level. If you look at this map, this shows the 9 Southwest border sectors, and in the Border Patrol we have 20 Border Patrol sectors and a Border Patrol Academy in Artesia, New Mexico. The 9 Southwest border sectors make up really under about 2,000 miles of the Southwest border. Del Rio, which sits in what we call the South Texas corridor, which is made up of Laredo and Rio Grande Valley. We account for about 600, a little over 600 miles of the Southwest border, but we account for about 49% of the traffic. You look at those numbers, 286,000, 32,000 apprehensions in Laredo, 45,000 plus in Del Rio, and you look across the entire Southwest border, you think, well, Del Rio's not doing too bad because you got Yuma with 64, San Diego. Well, I'm here to tell you, we're busy. And the reason we're busy is right now, we rank number 3 in the country for the amount of apprehensions we are making on a daily basis. Okay? So the number that you see there is not a reflection of what's happening now. We continuously close that gap on some of these other sectors that started off real busy at the beginning of the fiscal year and have tapered off. We are number 2 in the country when it comes to detention. Okay? The only other place is RGV, which is where I came from. I spent 5.5 years down there, and so I really understand, you know, those really busy environments. And so coming back here affords me an opportunity to share some of the best practices we had down there and incorporate it into what we're doing here. Excuse me. So this is a map of RAOR. I'll tell a quick story. People know I like to tell stories, and this one's about my mother. When about 4 months ago, I had to do a house hunting trip here, and my mother asked me, "Are you really coming to Del Rio?" And I said, "Yes, Mother, that's why I'm here. I'm looking for a house." And she said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I'm going to be the chief." "Well, where are you going to work?" I said, "Well, behind Rudy's." I have to give her landmarks. So behind Rudy's. And she goes, "Oh, okay." And she goes, "Well, you're going to be the chief here?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, who's the chief in Uvalde?" I said, "Well, I am." "Well, who's the chief in Carrizo Springs?" "I am." So of course we went down the road. She finally, I think, understands now that I'm the chief of everything, right? So, you know, when you look at the sector, it's a big sector. We cover, as Maine Forest, we cover all the way up to Abilene, right? And so he's got a handful of folks that are working those highways and coordinating with the sheriffs and whatnot. But we work a tiered enforcement strategy here. So I've got boats that you see outside on the water as often as I possibly can. Right past those boats, I have agents in four-wheel drive vehicles. I have helicopters in the air. We have helicopters in the air. We have our agents that are working these checkpoints. And so those checkpoints, I used to like to say they were our last line of defense, but that's not true. Because we have partnerships in Uvalde and some of these other communities that really become that last line of defense. And we work very well with our Stone Garden partners to ensure that those communities are also safe. But our two busiest areas in this sector are Del Rio and Eagle Pass. Okay? The Regional Springs has some challenges because we butt up right against Laredo, and the folks that they don't apprehend or the drugs that they don't seize make their way to Carrizo Springs area, and we have to go look for those. But here, right now, what we've seen is a bit of a spike in traffic in Del Rio. So, if you look at the numbers, we are about 250% higher than we were last year. The number, the graph in the blue, the line, is what we at last year. Right now we're at 45,000, and we continue to see more and more traffic. And 45,000 apprehensions is a lot, but what makes this awfully complicated is what that 45,000 represents. That represents about 25,000 family units, 2,800 unaccompanied children, and then the rest would be adult males and females from, traditionally, when I started 28 years ago, we apprehended mostly folks from Mexico. If I apprehended somebody from Mexico, I could process them, and I've got some retired Border Patrol agents in here also. And they know this. You could process them, take them back to the bridge, repatriate them, they'd probably be back before you made it back to the office. And that cycle happened time and time again. Well, what we're faced with now is not the same demographic. We are, in this sector, see principally Honduran nationals come across that river. And then what we've seen a spike of are Haitian and African nationals, which I will talk about specifically. What makes the traffic that we are encountering very challenging for us is we've got some legal constraints that we have to abide by. I cannot keep a family unit in custody longer than 20 days, and so they can't have an immigration hearing before those 20 days are up. So hence, those are the folks that we're releasing when we release to the transition shelter. Sean, where's Shannon at? Shannon? I know you're right. Please stand up. Shannon is with Samaritan's Purse, and they are an internationally faith-based organization that have come in to provide assistance to our shelter here in Del Rio, and they're expanding across the entire southwest border. Thank you, Shannon, for what you're doing and your arrival with your team. I appreciate that an awful lot. So, the demographic that we're dealing with, the unaccompanied children, very taxing on us. You know, we weren't trained at the Border Patrol Academy to deal with kids and families. You know, and so for us, when you see what's on the news and you see what's actually happening at the Border Patrol station, it's a far cry from what's depicted. I will tell you that the compassion and the humanity that the Border Patrol agents and the personnel that are dedicated to this mission are demonstrating towards the people we're encountering on a daily basis is phenomenal. You know what? I've seen people provide lunch. Yesterday, Robert Duran apprehended a group of 31, I want to say. He took water out that he was normally going to use for himself to drink in 100-degree heat and gave it to the people that he encountered out in the field, recognizing that they needed water at that critical point. And that happens every single day. Our stations were not built and equipped to manage the unaccompanied children and family units we're experiencing right now. Do we have some overcrowding in some areas? Yes. Do we need some more resources? Yes. Last year we spent about $18 million on detention and care. We are slated to spend about $188 million on contracting, medical care, detention, buses, on and on and on for the humanitarian crisis that we are dealing with right now. That's a far cry from what we've had to do in the past. I had my team put together some statistics I think that are important to us. I'm just going to go through them real quick. You see the number of family units, 25,000, as opposed to just under 2,000 last year. The judicial system. Our ability to prosecute people and demonstrate consequence is important. That's that 2,100 number. Special interest aliens. Those are folks that aren't from Mexico, aren't from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador. They come from countries all over the world. 51 different countries. We have experienced people from those countries coming into this sector in between the ports of entry. Rescues. We talked a little bit about the rescue. Every day, agents are out there rescuing. In fact, over the last 24 hours, we've been trying to rescue some people out in Langtree and Pandale that are in distress, and we actually rescued a young female yesterday that was in distress. Sex offenders. You know, it isn't just, you know, a mother and a small kid coming across that river. We've got criminal aliens. We've got folks that have warrants. And so the exposure of our officers from a family unit to somebody who's got a criminal record happens like that. And we have to be able to respond appropriately. Unfortunately, our deaths are up. And that's something I'm not happy with. I want to have my teams out there responding as quickly as we possibly can so we can reduce that number. But considering the number of apprehensions we've made so far this year, I think we've done a tremendous job of keeping those numbers as low as they possibly can. And then the last stat is the fraudulent cases. This is a mother or a father claiming that they're bringing a child over, or they're coming in with some sort of fraudulent documents trying to circumvent the loopholes that exist, which we know can only be fixed through congressional legislation. So, over the last 3 months, and I've been here 3 months, and we saw an increase of Haitian nationals and African nationals entering in between the ports of entry. I'm not responsible for them coming to Del Rio sector. This is something, a phenomenon that was driven by transnational criminal organizations. And so this map just shows their route of travel. They go to Ecuador, they go to Peru, they go to Panama, they go to Cuba, and then they come up through Mexico into the U.S. We have experienced more African nationals and Haitian nationals than any other sector, and a lot of that has to do with there are cartels that are pushing these folks into Del Rio. We still have about 700 people south of us that are staging in Piedras and Acuña, and we are monitoring that on a daily basis, and we work very closely with our Office of Field Operations Port Directors to ensure that we have the necessary response, which we demonstrated a couple of days when we thought there was going to be a protest. We responded quickly, and there was really no issue other than the fact that maybe traffic was backed up for a little while. So, people want to know, what's our goal? What are we trying to achieve? I'm trying to achieve operational control. And when I talk about operational control, these are the elements. Impedance and denial. That means I want to stop them. I don't want them to come across that river if I can prevent them from coming across. In order to do that, I need some infrastructure. I've got 4 miles of fencing in this sector. 2 of it right here in Del Rio POE, east and west of there, and some of it over in Eagle Pass. That's not enough. I'm not telling you I need 210 miles of fencing, because that's what the border covers here in Del Rio sector. What I'm telling you is I do need some fencing, I do need some roads, and I do need some technology. It's a system that we have to deploy out there in order to control this border. I need to have situational awareness. I need to have agents on the front lines. I need to have cameras, helicopters, planes up in the air, because I have to know what's coming at me. If I don't know what's coming at me, how can I respond to it? And of course, the last thing is I have to have a resolution. I have to be able to put hands on people that come in between the ports of entry, narcotics that come in between the ports of entry, and then I have to be able to prosecute, deport, or any type of consequence delivery that I can exercise against those individuals. So, I want to talk a little bit about my challenges and my concerns. So the humanitarian crisis is a tremendous concern for me, because that is a diversion by the transnational criminal organization to take our agents off the front lines. If they push a group of 100 or 150, that means I have no one covering zones or areas that are very, very high risk or high threat areas for us as an organization. We have apprehended over 200 large groups along the southwest border. That means a group of over 100 have crossed that border at one given time. And we've had experienced several of those here in this sector alone. That's something that's of concern to me. Not having enough agents on those front lines is of concern to me. My agents, they're tired. They've been working hard to keep these communities safe. And so they get bashed in the media, they take a beating in other outlets. So if you get a chance, thank one of them when you see them out there grabbing a sandwich or grabbing some water to go out in the field. Let them know that you appreciate what they're doing. We need some legislative fixes, and we have some legislative reps here. We've got to have some legislative fixes to the immigration system. Otherwise, we're going to be dealing with this for a long period. Our current numbers that we have right now, they're not sustainable. We can't keep this up. It's a drain, not just on the border security mission, but it's a drain over all the enterprises that exist out there. Future caravans. We had a big caravan last year. I'm worried about another one developing and coming our way, and our ability to respond appropriately to those caravans. It's not all negative. You know, we do have an opioid crisis, and I've got some great partnerships with our investigative agencies. We're going to do everything we can to go after the dopers that are trying to push and take advantage of the situation that exists. What's going right? One, the employees are doing a tremendous job. We've got a supplemental that's going to provide some humanitarian relief and allow us to do some things that we weren't able to do or we were having to pay for out of operational funds. Our collaboration with the communities and the transition shelters, that's going right. It couldn't be any better than it is right here. We are designing a centralized processing center in Eagle Pass with the hope of doing the same thing in Del Rio. That's going right. Our partnership with the government of Mexico is having an impact. The commissioner, the secretary, the chief of the border patrol have made that a #1 priority, and we're doing that here locally also with our foreign operations branch. We are running simultaneous operations on both sides of the river. Unfortunately, they are strapped just like we are. It's a capacity issue. We're receiving new agents every week. We are putting agents in those areas where we need them. Eagle Pass, Comstock, Del Rio, Brackettville, and so on. My path forward, I'm going to fight for resources for this sector. I'm going to fight for more boats, more agents, more civilian personnel, better stations, facilities, so we can manage this humanitarian crisis. More helicopters, planes, trains, and automobiles is what we need, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure our men and women have it. I'm going to continuously message the great effort that's going on as a team. Not that the Border Patrol is, shouldering 90% of this workload. This is a team effort, it's a team sport, and without the partnerships that exist today, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. I'm going to continue to tell the story as much as I possibly can. I had the opportunity to brief the president this past year on what was happening in South Texas. That same briefing holds true for this sector. What's happening here is what's happening there and across the entire southwest border. Every sector is up right now. Every sector is busy. And so, regardless of where that microscope is, I will tell you that my team will do everything they can to message the great work that goes on and that our communities are safe. right? This isn't that when people cross that river, their final destination is not Del Rio, Eagle Pass, Carrizo Springs, Uvalde. It's San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Maryland, Virginia, Florida, on and on and on. What we want to be able to message is that we've got great cooperation here in Del Rio, and that's why our communities are safe as they are. I want to close with one story, and then I'll open it up to some questions. If I forgot to thank anybody, I'm sorry. I get a little worked up when I'm doing these presentations. And Joe, you probably heard me tell this story before, but when I was in RGV, South Texas, after the whole family separation issue, we had a lot of protesters. And these protesters were based out of our centralized processing center, and they would show up every day. And they were, shouting profanities and derogatory comments towards our employees that had to go in and out. There was really only, there's two ways in, but most of the folks entered through one area. So one day, I was coming out of that facility, and a gentleman who I know wasn't from Rio Grande Valley, he must have been from Austin or somewhere else. He called me a charlatan, and I stopped. And I thought to myself, wow, the nerve of that guy. I've raised this hand more times than anybody should. And I had an adjutant with me who's like my assistant, and he stopped me, and I said, I got it, Robert. I'm not going to do anything, and I'm not going to say anything. So I continued walking. And I actually went to go grab a quick bite before my next meeting. And I thought to myself, I was still steaming. And I thought to myself, man, I wasn't worked up because he called me a charlatan. I was worked up because of every single one of those employees that had to walk through that line and hear that guy spout that nonsense at them when they were doing the best with the resources that they had at their disposal. And so, I still hadn't calmed down yet, and I was getting ready to leave, and a gentleman was sitting there eating breakfast with his wife, and he had a Vietnam vet hat on. He's awfully proud. And he walks over to me, and he says, "Sir, thank you for what you're doing. It means a lot to me and my wife." I was done. I didn't care about the charlatan anymore. I cared about, even though I'm defending that guy's right to call me a charlatan, I was really focused on that gentleman and his wife and the rest of the community that we were out there protecting. That happens every day, folks. Thank you. We have a podium set up here, and it's not for the media. It is for the community members, citizens, or our partners to ask questions. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to point to my command staff, Louis Collins, Randy Davis, Gracie Medina, or Randy Clark, to answer them because they're so much smarter than I am. So, who wants to be the first one to ask me questions? Always, please. Mr. Wesby, how you doing, sir? Good. That's like a coalition there.
If you would, just please state your name when you come up into the microphone and then ask your question.
I'm Lee Weathersby. This is my wife, Najma, and Annabelle Escamilla. We are here representing the Val Verde 100 Club. And we are specifically here to help all law enforcement people who are killed or injured in the line of duty. We're not here to anything else. We're 29 years old, the club is, It was started after motorcycle police officer John Miller, who a lot of you guys will know. His dad started it when he was killed in the line of duty. We have, if an officer is not necessarily law enforcement, but a fireman, we've helped the fire department, EMS, is injured, and they live in Val Verde County, and they're injured or killed in the line of duty, we're here to give them immediate help for their family. For instance, we had a Border Patrol pilot, I believe, get injured in a plane wreck in Fort Worth. His wife needed to get up there, and within 10 minutes, we had her $500 to get her up there.
Outstanding.
And that's what we're here for. And we're here just to support law enforcement only. And we appreciate what y'all are doing. And I am praying for your boss right now having to face those idiots in Congress.
If I could real quick, Ms. Weatherby, thank you so much for the article that you wrote, the editorial you wrote. That meant an awful lot to the men and women of the Border Patrol.
It was a pleasure, and it was from the heart, not for the show.
Yep.
And I'm here to say, as a legal immigrant, God bless you all. I know what you're going through, and it is right that people come to this country legally, because it takes time, it takes effort, it takes knowledge, and the people that are called today, and they want them to vote tomorrow, know absolutely nothing about this country. God bless you all, and be with you, and give you strength, and have your families.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just to let y'all know that we are very appreciative, and we want to thank each and every one of you for all that you do for us. And just to know that we're here to support you 100%.
Thank you.
Years ago, when we started the Val Verde 100 Club, there must have been 100 people there. And you're looking at 3 of us, and we're it. We're a 501(c)(3). Every penny we take in goes for the purpose that we were designed for. We do not, it's a strictly volunteer thing, and strictly donations. Right now, today, we have $3,000. That's it. And God forbid, we don't want to use a penny.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Chief.
Morning.
Renee Reyes, Concerned Citizen. Before I get started, I just want to thank you and your agents for doing a wonderful job in a very, very strenuous situation. So on behalf of the whole community of Del Rio, thank you so much for your hard work.
Appreciate that.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned a little while ago that you can only hold the immigrants for 20 days and then they're released. So they've sort of had a hearing, they're supposed to come back to their hearing within, I guess, a few months, something like this. You mentioned the paper, I read an article in the paper a few weeks ago that you mentioned that 90% of them don't come back for their hearing. When that happens, do they then become fugitives and the authorities have to go pick them up and they've committed a crime and they have to be detained in some way? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so, the number fluctuates. I've heard everywhere from 80 to 90% do not show up for their immigration hearing or report to an immigration office once they are released with a notice to appear. And so, typically, single adults are kept in custody or either repatriated back or if they have a legitimate credible fear claim, they may be released at some point. We try to get them before an immigration judge. The family units are what's straining the system right now, and that's typically what we're talking about. And so quite often, when they make their final destination to wherever it may be in the country, we're finding out that they're not actually showing up for those immigration hearings. And then so, because there's such a backlog of new immigrants in the United States right now, it is very difficult to prioritize when you have criminal aliens that would be at the highest levels of the priority list, and then a family unit that's probably going to fall real low on that list. And so, yeah, they may, have overstayed their visa or their stay, but chances are, because our resources are so stretched as Department of Homeland Security, not just the Border Patrol, across the board, going to make it very difficult for anyone to actually go out and look for those individuals.
But they do become fugitives from the law then.
They do, at some point, yes, will have overstayed their visa, and then would fall into that category that, they're legally here in the country now.
Right. And you mentioned also a moment ago that it's the transnational gangs that are bringing these people in. As I understand it, when I've read in the paper, that these people are paying these gangs, a lot of money to bring them over from Africa or Central America or wherever they come from. Is there anything that can be done to infiltrate these gangs and, stop them from doing this type of thing?
Yeah, so we've got some tremendous efforts going on right now with our investigative agencies. The transnational criminal organization is a $1 billion business. Everybody who comes across that river has to pay a piece or a fee. And so, yeah, it is awfully complicated. Unfortunately, there's a lot of them out there. And so we're prioritizing the ones that are doing it more than the smaller mom and pop organizations. But yeah, we are trying to do everything we can to attack the network. We took a page out of the DOD playbook. What they did in Afghanistan and Iraq is what we're trying to do here against the transnational criminal organizations.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Hello, I'm David Cortez. I'm an explorer for Post 921 in Eagle Pass. And first I want to say thank you because I have a lot of close and distant family that work with this agency, and they're a part of CBP in all forms. So first of all, thank you for giving them a job. Second of all, my question was, do you think that certain negative media attention in recent months has caused your ability to recruit agents gone down? And if you think truthful addresses like this will help you get more agents sooner?
Yeah, excellent question. Yes, I do think the negative media does affect our ability to recruit and hire. We're about 2,000 agents under where we need to be at the national level. This sector, we're 200 agents, 250 agents under where we need to be. So we're trying to get more agents hired. And certainly it is a good driver to have the recruiting booth out there and be able to have explorers. These are high school age students in Eagle Pass, Del Rio, and some of our other communities that have signed up to say, hey, I want to explore a career or an opportunity perhaps in law enforcement or some law enforcement related field. So thank you for that. And yes, I do think events like this will help us.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, good morning. I'm Don Reyes. I'm from Del Rio, Texas, born and raised here. I'm a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. I did a lot of time in Central and South America. Some of the maps that you showed up there. I was part of Blood Colombia, Sovereign Skies, Panama, Mexico, exercises that happened in that AOR down south of Mexico. My question for you, sir, today, this morning, and by the way, thank you for everything you're doing. Absolutely great forum to do this for all of us. My question goes to the bigger picture solution. What is the liaison synergy? Is there any between yourself, and maybe at a higher level, between yourself and U.S. Southern Command? AF South is over in Tucson, you've got AF North over in San Antonio, the Navy and the Marines are down in Miami. U.S. Southern Command is in Miami. What is the synergy? Do you have any oversight? Are you guys tying in at all? They have a mass migration policy and plan, and I'm looking to see what is it that's tying in here to this problem here. We're all looking at the very end stages. You need more personnel, you need more money. Let's get that for you, no problem. But what's the bigger solution? Do you have any ties back is what I'm asking.
Yeah, definitely. Good to see you again, and definitely have ties to Central America. I have officers deployed to the southern border of Mexico. I have officers deployed in Central America, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador. Maybe not specifically from the Del Rio sector, but from the entire enterprise. We work with Army North out of San Antonio and NORTHCOM out of Colorado Springs. And so we have a great partnership with them. We're doing some capacity building, some training with those entities. And so we need to do more of that. Our new commissioner is very focused on our efforts south, as well as our acting secretary, Mac Lennon. He spends an awful lot of time there. I've been to Honduras myself. I oversaw our foreign operations when I was in Washington, D.C. So So I know firsthand the things that we can be doing. I will tell you that we've seen a bit of a decrease from folks from El Salvador because they're doing a much better job of capacity building. We need to branch that out into Guatemala and Honduras and be able to have or mimic the same type of coordination and operations. So yeah, you're spot on. We've got to do more of that.
Thank you, sir, appreciate that.
Concerned citizen. At our last public meeting with the city and the county, a lot of the things that you've talked on today are still going on. And there's no solution to it because it's an ongoing thing. And it's going to get bigger. My biggest concern is that if we do not take care of this, by 2020, by 2024, and 2026, our country will be divided between the Muslim population, Islam, and communism. We have a Muslim population that is coming through that is not getting caught. Now, I don't understand where it's at because I see it, but I don't hear about it. We know there's a Russian population coming. We only know one Russian that was arrested. I don't know where the others are, but I see it every day. It comes to my house, okay? It needs to stop. I know that you don't have enough personnel, but you know what? You're protecting the United States. You're protecting us, but it's not enough, and Congress is not doing anything about it. So we need to take care of this by 2020. There's no other way, because if we lose our country, we lose our freedoms, and we lose everything.
East Asia, the threats that exist south of us here, and so we're focused on that. We're doing a great job collectively targeting what we can. You're not going to hear about that in the news. You're not going to hear about some of the great work that goes on behind the scenes. But I will tell you that it is something that we take very, very seriously.
I know that they're coming in through the Gulf Coast. I know they're coming in through boats. I mean, I see them.
Yes, ma'am.
They're crossing. They have money.
Yeah.
They're able to pay to get wherever they need to go. They're not being apprehended anywhere.
Yes, ma'am.
You all need to look at that.
We will.
And you need to tell the people, when you meet with your regional members, and we all have your meetings, you all need to figure out where these people are going, because they're not getting stopped. And they're coming in and they're starting businesses. And we can't do anything about it, because our hands are tied, just typically because the first thing they call out is that we're being racist. And so we need to take care of that. We really appreciate everything that you've done here in controlling the populations that are coming in from Central America. But if Congress does not get it together, we're going to lose this battle, because you're not going to have enough resources to take care of it.
Yeah, you know, you're right. There's certainly a congressional fix to this, and we continue to message our requirements, and I'm hopeful that at some point we'll get some traction there. So thank you for those sentiments. We're going to have one more question, and then we're going to wrap it
I just
up.
want to make one more comment.
Please.
I want to invite everyone that is here to write to Nancy Pelosi, please, and ask them to stop playing games and take care of our country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ortiz. I'm Andres Rodriguez. I'm the mayor of Brackaville. And personally, I think some of your better agents are in Brackaville. We appreciate what they do for us over there. But I want to share something with you. And I'm also the president of the Kennedy County Church Alliance in Kennedy County. Our churches collectively pray for our Border Patrol and for National Guards and stuff that are helping us over here. They stay in constant communications with us, and we appreciate that. But what I want to say is, a lot of times, because we live in a very rural area, and a lot of times when you're traveling from here to Sanderson or Alpine or Fort Stockton or something, and your car breaks down and there's an emergency, the Border Patrol is usually the first one that's there with you. And they stay with you till first responders come in. So we appreciate those things. And I've seen it happen several times. So we pray for you, as the Kennedy County Church Alliance, we pray for you guys constantly. And God bless you, and we appreciate all the things you do. I also appreciate that Congressman Hurd's office representatives are here. They're hearing these things. She'll go back and talk to Congressman Hurd. But we're not here to discriminate against Muslims or any other religion. We love everybody, collectively. We can work together. So I appreciate Carmen being here, and I know Congressman Hurd's going to hear these things. he talks about policing up these borders in a smarter way. It's not just about a wall or a fence. We need drones, we need personnel, we need cameras, whatever it takes, the things we used when I was in Iraq and stuff. And also, we also have our Middle Rio Grande COG is here. The executive director for COG is here. And we're always willing to work with the COG to try to find solutions to help our people around this area. So we appreciate it. Thank you guys, and God bless you.
Thank you, Mayor. I've taken enough of y'all's busy day. Thank y'all so much for attending. I just want to close with one thing. Somebody retired border patrol brought this to me about 3 weeks ago. And it's dated 3/16/1925. It's from the Douglas Daily International newspaper. And it talks about it as a recruitment ad for Border Patrol agents. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it really is gender specific. They were only looking for men at the time. They weren't looking for, strong cowgirls. I wish they would have been, because we probably wouldn't be in the position we're in now. But the very last sentence in this ad, I think, highlights and showcase what I want to bring to the fight. And I hope our Border Patrol personnel, our professional staff represent these things. They must be of good moral character, honest, and courageous. Thank y'all.